What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. We have a lot of important news and some great plays to cover in today's video, so make sure you guys stick around to the end. Like I said, we have a ton of great plays and a lot of important news with the Afghanistan, what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico right now, the Astra space launch, and just a lot of great things. If you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting news still coming out of Afghanistan this weekend, and it's not really news that I don't think is going to necessarily tank the markets this week, but it could definitely have an impact on it. And then we all know how there was some suicide bombing attacks in Kabul last week, and a few U.S. service members died, as well as many civilians, which was a really unfortunate event to see. And we can see that somehow with this event, the S&P 500 initially shot down, but then on Friday recovered right back up to all-time highs, heading up to $450 or higher. But this is really scary because it was apparently ISIS-K that did those suicide bombings. And now Joe Biden actually retaliated, and they did a strike today against some of these, against an ISIS-K target. Apparently it was a vehicle with a bunch of explosives in it and stuff. So they just took those explosives out of the equation. But the bad news is, I should say, is that President Biden came out and said that they expect an attack in Kabul and that it's highly likely within the next 24 to 36 hours. So just keep that in the back of your minds. There could always be more stuff coming out of Afghanistan right now, especially like he said, they're kind of expecting another attack to come. So we'll have to see what ends up coming out of this. But in the end, it's not good news for the market. But in the end, the market's at all-time highs and we just keep rallying up. So I'm not saying that this news is good, but it's definitely not like hurting the market the way I thought it would.
True that. I mean, when Powell spoke on Friday, it literally just took the market on a rocket ship to the upside. And one thing to keep in mind is, on average, September is actually one of the worst months for the stock market, but it looks like it's booming so far. But either way, I think it's very important to have hedges in place. And then, Tom, fill us in more on this Astra space launch. I know a ton of people were watching ASTR stock over the past couple weeks. What happened?
Yeah, on Friday, they were actually supposed to launch, and you could see that they tried to get into space, but they failed, and they ended up tanking down in after hours. And then they went ahead and tried again on Saturday. And there's actually a lot of information. The CEO was giving an interview to CNBC, and he said that at liftoff, the rocket appeared to move sideways rather than straight up. So that's obviously terrible news whenever you're, trying to get a rocket into the atmosphere. And apparently they just obviously, once something goes wrong like that, you just can't try to still go up through the atmosphere because it throws all the numbers off in the calculation. So it really ruined the launch and everything. So be really careful with ASTR. And this is the main reason why it's always good to be careful with these launch events or different stuff like with ASTR and with Virgin Galactic. Sometimes the events go good and the stock flies up, but sometimes the launches go bad, kind of like what we're seeing here. And the stock will probably end up tanking down in pre-market on Monday morning. So hopefully, you guys didn't over leverage on it too much, but in the end, I think it was still a decent play heading into the event. But this is exactly why we always say to be really careful holding things through these types of events, because there's always this chance of something going wrong.
True that, and even when things go well, like with SPCE a couple months ago, they had a share offering and the stock tanked. So, these catalysts are very interesting, high risk, high reward, and I'm very excited to see how ASTR just develops over time. So I'll definitely keep them on my radar, but it's definitely not good news heading into this week. And then, Tom, I know that we have Hurricane Ida, coming through the Gulf right now, and I actually saw some interesting news with like oil firms. What's going on there?
Yeah, it says CNBC reports that oil firms are slashing U.S. Gulf of Mexico's output by 91%, apparently, ahead of the powerful Hurricane Ida. And Ida is forecast to reach a Category 4 hurricane before making landfall just west of New Orleans. And apparently, Louisiana residents on Saturday rushed to prepare for the storm, which could bring winds as high as 140 miles per hour. And something else that's interesting with Hurricane Ida is that this is coming on the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which came in I believe 2004 or 2003, sometime right around there. But really look out for this. This could be a big thing for the economy right now. If this hurricane comes in and ends up being a lot worse, and causes a lot of destruction or flooding, that could really affect the markets and specifically more of the oil market. But I'll definitely be having my eyes on this week. It should definitely make an impact on the market a little bit, and specifically more of the oil market. And definitely look out for Exxon and Mobil and Chevron, because those two stocks have honestly been moving up pretty well the past couple of weeks with oil. And if oil prices start really flying up through the roof, maybe these stocks will do even better.
Yeah, so it looks like Hurricane Katrina came in 2005, and like you said, Tom, it looks like it's going to be the 16th anniversary. So definitely not good news there. Definitely keep an eye on oil stocks. But Tom, let's get right into these momentum plays for tomorrow. And with the first one, we have WFC to the upside.
Yeah, and Wells Fargo actually has a pretty good double top up here. Make them break out above $49.90 to the upside. You could also just say $50 even.
All right, with the next one, we have Coin also to the upside.
Coinbase, go ahead and make them fly up through $260.
All right, and with the last one, we have Qualcomm.
Yeah, I've really been eyeing up Qualcomm lately, but make them break out above 145.
Sounds good. So we are watching these 3 plays for potential day trades to the upside tomorrow, only if they break above the levels Tom listed. But now it's time for our member of the day. So huge shout out, Raphael. He's been a great member of the chat for a while now. And Tom, he was so early with SPRT. You know, the crazy short squeeze we saw on Friday. He was so early with SPRT. It literally just exploded over the past week. And I know he was talking about it when the stock was maybe at like $15 or so, or even earlier.
Yeah, I do remember those comments, and that's awesome that he ended up getting in down there low like that. And I remember him hyping it up, and I'm glad that he ended up banking off of it if he ended up holding it. But man, that was a great squeeze, and hey, good insight there, because that setup was looking pretty drastic heading into that squeeze too. And I'm glad you had that good eye there. So hopefully you ended up banking off of it.
Good stuff. And then let's also take a look at that bot play from Friday. So on Friday, the hybrid bot called out the CCL 24 calls at $75 each, and they ran all the way up to $91 each within like an hour or so. So if you guys want to trade with a bot, you can click the first link in the description down below. Daily options, swing trades, day trades. You can talk with Tom and myself all day long, and we have an amazing community in the Discord chat. Once you sign up, you'll have access to a bunch of different channels, a bunch of custom bots, and you can cancel at any time. So definitely check it out. To that first link in the description down below. But now let's get into our unusual options activity for this week, and we are looking at Palantir. So Palantir had a very interesting week last week. You know, they had that bad news with the FBI come out, but then they actually had a great day on Friday. And I saw on Friday there was around $1.7 million put into the Palantir 26 strike calls that expire this Friday. So it's definitely good to see Palantir's trending in the right direction, and I like the setup.
Yeah, I like it too. And they've been consolidating here in this small range that they've been in for a few weeks now. And we finally saw that big breakout on Friday whenever Powell really brought the market up. Palantir and all these other stocks ended up flying up as well. And it was just really good to see them finally break $26, but then they dipped right back below it. I would say, Mike, that I think that they're longing these, given it's only 1.7 million into this, and also the calls expire at the end of the week, which is at least they're not entering this position on like a Thursday or something like that. There's definitely a lot of time, so hopefully Palantir can keep running after breaking out. And honestly, the setup looks pretty good. I know me and you were eyeing it up a lot last week, Mike, and with it finally breaking out, I mean, I would think that we might be able to get up and retest like $27 over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and implied volatility is pretty low, so it's not a bad setup at all. But let's get right into the comments from the previous video. With the first comment, we have Rich saying, "All I know is I sold TTCF and just loving how PENN held strong even when many others fell, all while outperforming DraftKings, surprisingly. But hey, I just regret not adding more when it was south of $70. So looking at PENN, it had an amazing week. It literally just was green every single day, and it went from like $65 all the way up to like $84. It's looking great. I really would not be surprised if we saw like a tiny pullback this week, but over the next couple weeks, I think it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, Mike, that I know that I've been loving it too, but you've really been hyping up Penn ever since it fell below $80 a share. I know that you've been really saying it would be great for selling puts, getting shares and stuff. And man, look at the turnaround on them. Their earnings were even great here. I really like to see Penn fly up like this. I think it shows that these gaming/sports betting stocks are going to really start turning around here, even though they've been going down in the short term. And I think part of the reason also has to do with like how the NFL season's kind of starting up and we're getting to like the playoff season for baseball, and the NBA playoffs didn't happen too long ago. So it just seems like there's a lot of good stuff going on for these companies. And especially with it being like more of like a new year, I would think that they could get some more subscribers maybe next year, more customers, obviously, as sports betting becomes more legalized and just obviously more people kind of get into that sector. But I really like the company. I like Penn, and I love how they were bouncing off these supports down here like at $65. It was looking so good. And Mike, I just can't say it again. Like, kudos to you for calling this one out, because this would have been a really great pickup of shares for anyone who grabbed it low down here. And, guys, whenever stocks are going down like this, whenever they're good companies, sometimes you just have to, put that trust in your system and just trust your gut and start picking up shares low. That way, when it starts going up, you don't miss it, because now you already missed like a nice 10 to 15% gain here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Tom. And there are still other stocks out there at some pretty good levels. I like CRSR, which is Corsair. They're still relatively low. Boeing is pretty solid too. And, I think for a long-term outlook, Penn and DraftKings are still looking good, and even Palantir is looking good. So there are a lot of opportunities out there, and just be aware of that. But then we have Daniel saying, "What's up, Mike and Tom? With all of the Afghan news, LMT might be a good bet. They do run with news like that. What do you think?" So LMT, Lockheed Martin, anything with war, this stock would theoretically pop, and it definitely can be a play. But just like looking at the movement, and like it's obviously not exploding, so it's not like a bunch of people are like flocking into this stock. LMT, GD, Boeing, NOC are all, like, I guess you can say, quote unquote war stocks. But either way, LMT is just a good company to hold for the long term, in my opinion. They have, they're a solid company, and they obviously have a ton of growth potential, and they've just been a very just solid company over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and if we go look at even like a Max Weekly back to like 2008 and stuff, like you can see, of course, like Lockheed Martin's been a really big grower, obviously, for the past, like, obviously 10 years just about. So they've been looking really good, and I'm with you. It's more of like a longer term hold here, and they are kind of low relative to their high. They're kind of bouncing on that support around 350, so it's not a bad time.
All right, and then we have Tap saying, "How about Abercrombie?" So ANF. ANF looks like it's doing good during the last few quarters, and their stock went down big time during yesterday's earnings. So that's what Tap said. Let's take a look. It has been growing a lot over the past couple months or so. It's had a ton of great growth, which is awesome. They don't look bad, like on a Max Weekly chart. They really don't look bad. It's just personally, I like other stocks a lot more, like Corsair, like DraftKings, like PENN, like Palantir, Boeing, RCL, all of these other stocks. I feel like it has a lot more growth potential. But at the end of the day, ANF is not bad. It's just, I like other ones better.
Yeah, and they're not terrible, but the one thing that does scare me a little bit is that they were pretty heavily into that retail sector, of course, and I'm sure they're getting more into online stuff right now, which is kind of why they're popping back up. But just be a little wary. Those retail stocks can definitely be they can definitely have a lot of up and down movement, especially over the next few years. But hopefully they end up integrating into online really good, and hopefully they end up popping up off of these lows, because man, whenever the coronavirus happened, Abercrombie was all the way down to $10, not looking too good there.
True that. And then, Tom, one last thing I wanted to look at was Disney. This stock had a pretty good day on Friday, finishing up around 2%. And news came out that Disney's ESPN is looking for a $3 billion deal with some of these, I guess you could say, sports betting stocks like DraftKings. So it's talking to a couple different companies, but either way, I really like DraftKings for the long term, and I really like Disney for the long term. So hopefully they make a deal.
Yeah, they're trying to get into that sports betting sector and trying to, pick up some of that market share before it gets too polluted, I guess. Because man, look at this Disney. That's great to see with ESPN too, and ESPN is one of the biggest sports websites slash channels, I guess you could say. And man, they're huge. So if they could somehow integrate like with DraftKings or Penn Gaming or something like that, that would be really good news for Disney. And hey, I'm really glad to see Disney kind of innovating, and they just keep getting into these they back in the day they were just all about their movies and their parks, but now they're really innovating, getting into Disney Plus, ESPN, and now they're even looking to get into like sports betting. I mean, this is really good news for Disney, and it should be really good news for anyone who holds shares of them or wants shares of them for the long term.
Yeah, so I'm just like reading the headlines again. Looks like they're looking for a $3 billion multi-year brand licensing deal, and they've already held talks with DraftKings and Caesars Entertainment. So that should be awesome to see. So definitely keep an eye on Disney. But Tom, like, what are some of the top stocks you're watching for this week?
Yep, we do have some earnings coming up this week. Now, it's not too much, and I think some of the other Afghanistan news was bigger to cover earlier in the week, but we do have some of your favorite stocks, Mike. We have Zoom reporting on Monday after close, and then on Tuesday, looks like we don't have too much stuff besides FUTU. They're pretty good, and then on Wednesday, we have Chewy and SargePoint, or Chewy, ChargePoint, and then C3 AI, which are pretty good, and then it looks like Thursday we have DocuSign. So not the biggest week ever for earnings, but I'll definitely have my eyes on Zoom. That's going to be a really interesting one. And then Chewy, ChargePoint, and AI on Wednesday, I think will be interesting also. But that's pretty much all I'm watching for the earnings this week. And then for stocks I'm watching, I really have my eyes still on VXX and the SPY. I mean, it's hard to say. Is the SPY going to keep flying up with all this Afghanistan news? I mean, it's going to be really hard, I think, for the SPY to keep going. So we'll just have to see how it ends up playing out. But if some more attacks or some more retaliation or something comes out, definitely be careful. I think the market could end up going down, but hopefully it keeps flying up, even though the news is crazy. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I was really expecting the market to fall, but we ended up hitting all-time highs. So we'll have to see if Powell's comments can keep pushing the markets up, or if Afghanistan is going to kind of take over the news and send it back down.
Sounds good. And guys, if you like our content, definitely don't forget to subscribe. We post brand new videos every single day. So if you subscribe, you'll be able to see our videos more often. And if you guys want to trade with Tom, myself, and our bots every single day, you can click that first link in the description down below. You can cancel at any time. And the bots have been pretty hot. We have a lot of great swings in the works, and you can talk with us all day long, and there's a great community there. So definitely check it out. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe. But other than that, thanks for watching.